His icebreaker question. If anybody hasn't seen him or doesn't know him, Mike Martina is my predecessor, and he's up here in front. And his favorite question, I'm going to kick it off with that, just so that kind of in honor of him. His favorite question would be, "What is your favorite concert?" And we're going to start with you, Craig. Just too many to pick from.
My first concert, I will say, is my favorite, and this was Y&T at the Santa Clara Fairgrounds, 1983.
Wonderful. What about you, Aaron?
So, please don't judge me. Both my kids, we got signed up for guitar lessons last year, and I made a pact with them. I said, if both you guys can learn 3 songs, start to finish, you can go to whatever rock concert you want to go to, as long as mom and dad can kind of vet it first. So they ended up doing really well. They went to music camp, and they learned a bunch of Green Day songs. So Green Day came to town, and we gave them a little lecture about how language is just a marketing tool to make this music sound really cool. Don't pay attention to it, and they had a great time. So it was awesome. It was really fun to take my kids to an event like that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So actually, very similar. The best concert I went to, my favorite, was actually with my son. A number of years ago, we went to Leonard Skinner in Atlanta, and it was also eye-opening experience of what people do at concerts, what they do during the concert, that he was really pretty eye-opening experience for him.
What about you, Eric?
I'd split that in 2, so traveling with the Grateful Dead for a month was a lot of fun. That was in the 80s, and then going to the piano guys with my 2 daughters and watching one decide, yes, cello lessons. I want to do that. That makes a great concert.
It sounds like it, for sure. Okay, so now that we've gotten a little glimpse of what these guys have done, with their free time, love to figure out what they're doing in their professional time. So if you would, Craig, start us off with introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? And maybe highlight some projects you've been working on for the audience.
Yeah, sure. My name is Craig Ellis. I am a vice president at XL Construction, and I lead our office and civic markets. I was raised in San Jose. Went to Leland High School, for anyone here. And I am a graduate of the Chico State Construction Management Program.
Well, welcome.
Aaron Jensen, and I am with HKS Architects. I've been in the Bay Area for almost 10 years, been practicing for about 20 years. I was with one other firm prior to joining HKS, and I worked for about 10 years in Chicago in that market as well. And I've been focusing largely on commercial office and largely kind of commercial meeting, conference, performing arts buildings. That's kind of where my expertise is. And now building out a new group within our office in San Francisco focused on pursuing commercial and corporate work.
Wonderful. Any projects you'd highlight?
Yeah, we've got a couple of projects in the pipeline right now, large kind of biotech kind of campus work. We're doing a lot of work at SFO. There's some new buildings coming online there that we're pursuing. And some great opportunities with some I'll call them huge tech companies that we're talking to right now. So very exciting time to be out there.
Wonderful. Welcome. Hi, Scott. Yeah.
Hello.
I'm Scott Ekman, thanks. I'm with Adobe Systems. I've been at Adobe for about 2.5 years right here in downtown San Jose. Adobe is a 35-year-old tech company. Probably everyone in this room uses some Adobe product at some point in the day. It's an awesome company. I've been in the tech industry for a while. I was at Sun Microsystems for about 20 years. I was at T-Mobile for 3.5 years, and then here at Adobe. So I'm head of corporate real estate. I have everything from transactions through strategy, transactions, project delivery. I also have all of those communities that are in terrific job. I love it. I love being in downtown San Jose.
Well, here you are. Eric, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and take it away.
Well, I'll make the introduction short. I'm the team leader at Teamworks. We are in construction, facilities, mechanical. We also focus on nonprofits, including learning homes, cultural centers, heritage schools, here in the United States, also in Panama, Russia, and it's a pleasure to be here with you guys. Let's focus on our panelists, though. So I've been given a list of questions that the panelists have had a chance to prioritize in terms of what they find passionately intriguing or interesting in their world. And I'll start the questions to somebody and then ask that the panelists feel free to flow from there. So let's start with Adobe and Scott. I think we all know that they've made a bold commitment to the city of San Jose, and it's not without its challenges, I'm sure. So I thought we would let Scott take that kind of open-ended and talk to us about what they're trying to accomplish and what hurdles they're facing.
Yeah, okay. So, as I said, Adobe is 35 years old. We've been here in downtown San Jose for a little over 20 years. And what's interesting about Adobe is about 4 years ago, we changed our business model from perpetual software, basically boxes that we shipped software into subscription service, cloud-based services, completely changed the market. And we're all of a sudden on this growth trajectory, right, of 25% revenue growth year over year. It's just been taken off. So what comes with that, of course, is headcount growth. We've got to feed the engine. And since San Jose is our headquarters, it is the place, as our CEO has said, we're a technology company, headquartered in Silicon Valley. This is where we want to invest. And so San Francisco and San Jose are our primary growth locations. We also have a large facility in Lehi, Utah, which is right south of Salt Lake City. And we have a large presence in India as well. The Bay Area is where we want to grow. San Jose, we've sort of made a commit that we're really going to double our size here in San Jose, and we need obviously capacity to do that. Everything's a supply-demand, and we have the demand, we need the supply. So the challenge we've got, of course, is meeting that demand with the supply in time. As a 35-year-old tech company, Adobe doesn't rush to make big bets. Adobe's very thoughtful, very, just like all of you that worked in old tech companies, it's data-driven, you're very thoughtful about the decisions you make, and that takes more time. So we've got some stuff lined up, we've made some commitments, we know we're going to grow here, we know we're going to be here for a while, so the challenges we really have is getting that done in the time frame, but it's also on the talent side, is making sure we can compete effectively for talent. And so we do a lot in that regard as well, around employee experience, making sure we're really able to effectively compete with the other tech companies that are all trying to grab similar kinds of folks we are.
And if I think of prominent contractors in the Bay Area, XL Construction has been prominent here locally in San Jose for a long time. How do you see the San Jose market, and what challenges is XL experiencing when clients like Adobe say, hey, come build for me? There's a little more to it than just showing up and it just suddenly happens. How does XL meet their requests, which are time sensitive in a labor market that's already constrained?
Yeah, I mean, there's an exciting time right now, one of the most important things is to be to know your client and to be involved with them very early, and to maintain those relationships. It's very important to understand what their needs are and to have a cultural alignment with them, and because they're facing the similar challenges we have. There's a competition for resources. It's a limited that's out there, and so having a company and building a company that can attract people, and more importantly, retain people. And there's strategies that you can employ help in that department. But it's a lot of listening. It's having value alignment sessions very early so that you not only understand the client you're directly working with, but who the end users are and who the support services are, so that as you evolve the design and implement the construction, that when the facility is ultimately put into use, that it's there for its intended purpose and the people operating it are pleased.
Understood. Not many architectural firms can go from a small husband-wife operation to 1,400 people all over. HKS has done that, if I understand correctly. Is your commitment in San Jose and the local marketplace also a focus of this large company called HKS Architecture, or how do you see the local community?
Yeah, I think we see, frankly, markets like San Jose and the sort of maturing kind of tech companies out there and the opportunities to essentially really build and strengthen communities and cities and urban centers. And that to me is the direction where, frankly, it's about time we're headed. And I think that's where a lot of the staff and the employees and the people coming into these companies, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for communities, they're looking for amenities, they're looking for neighborhoods. It's hard for me to imagine, this generation, wanting to go, live and work in the shiny object in the field. They want to have the ability to bike or ride to work, and so that's, I think, where that's my interest, frankly, with our practice, and it's something that I've seen really sort of come on pretty strong lately. There's in all of the work that we're doing, there's this desire to really create a place in the community and to build the amenities into that experience. So it's no longer just about, I shouldn't say this, but it's not like our parents' generation where you hop in the car and you leave your community and you go to your building, and it's much more kind of an integrated lifestyle. Where's a great city and what's that environment like?
So let's drill into a specific, go ahead.
One thing that you made me think of is the competition that the companies like Adobe are having, attracting people, and the services they're providing, and the level of the amenities that they're providing. It filters back down to the contractors and the level of expertise that we have to deliver. The buildings are not just a box. The buildings have cafes. They have big outdoor amenity areas. It's very fluid. There's a lot of elements that come into it that is exciting to us, but it also creates opportunities to give people exposure to those types of systems. So it's the high-tech innovation and competition is actually helping drive our construction business.
Can we drill down into a specific with HKS? What are some of the examples of things that you're doing to modify the workplaces so that Adobe is better able to communicate its cultural mission and Excel can build it and so on? I mean, how are you modifying the workplace environment specifically so that it's different than our parents' generation? What are you actually doing?
That's a good question. I think probably the single biggest thing that we're dealing with today really is this idea of sort of obviously the open work environment, and but how does that open workspace, how's that going to change? How's that going to evolve? How does that work with each company? It's kind of a blanket statement, but it's an environment that I think we tailor to each of our clients and their needs and their unique cultures. So, and I think also that the single kind of driver for a lot of our work these days is flexibility within that environment. So we are looking at ways in which we can basically think about this kind of open workspace, as it's a little bit like, it's kind of crude analogy, but I'll call it the hospitality model, where you kind of have to be able to quickly evolve and reinvent it, every 10, 15, 20 years. So that's, I think, really something that we're focused on.
If I'm not mistaken, I'm hearing all three panelists talking about culture. What they're talking about is how they make the spiritual experience of going to work something that is a little bit more akin to being amongst family or amongst a community than going to a place where you just toil and sweat and get a paycheck. So if we all agree on that, and I think I'm hearing that, well, what is it about the core values that had you so passionate? When we were talking about XL Construction and the business that Mr. Raff has built, tell me what it is that makes it so special, please.
You know, we have three core values. The first is to be true. And that is multi-layered. It's be true to yourself. But it also is to be true and transparent to your clients, to be open, to not hide things, and to really try to promote a relationship in a collaborative environment where you can have trust. And that's one of the most paramount things to a relationship. The second is we, not me. The focus shouldn't be here. If we have a culture of giving and thinking of the greater good, we believe that we'll deliver a better project team and a better product to our clients. The third core value is go beyond. Do more of what's asked of you because you want to, because it's important to your client and to you as an individual. So those are three elements that we practice. We celebrate as a company. We come together every quarter and we talk about the business, we talk about financials, we talk about our vision, but we always close with case studies of individuals within the organization that had exhibited those core values. And it's always a really fun way to close our time together.
You know, these folks on the panel here aren't just active and passionate within the companies that employ them. Some folks are reaching way beyond the boundaries, even outside the country, and changing lives. Have been doing it for many years. Probably does not want me to bring it up, but I'm going to do it anyway. Anchor for Kids is that kind of an experience where you see somebody who's going into a community that's not native to them, it's not their native language, has no way to provide talent back to Adobe, and yet you do it anyway? Tell us about what you're doing, sir.
Thanks.
Really excited about it.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, I started a nonprofit a few years ago with my daughter. We do construction projects at orphanages in Cambodia, and really the inspiration was taking high school students to go serve others and see the impact it has as a 16, 17, 18-year-old to understand what purpose really is. Get them outside of, this Silicon Valley and their sense that this is what the world is, taking them someplace far, far away and having an experience of not only understanding a country that's recovering from genocide, but serving others and getting a sense of purpose out of that when you're 16 years old that will really change your life. And I, Adobe, similar to what Craig has said, Adobe has clear sort of guiding principles, core values that we espouse as well. Exceptional, genuine, innovative, and involved. And the work I do in Cambodia on the side, just running a nonprofit, hits on all those as well. And so there's such a clear connection to what I do at Adobe, what we try and instill in providing exceptional experiences for our employees and our customers. Adobe is a preeminent company. We lead in many markets. We're, our brand tagline is changing the world through digital experiences, and we believe that we can continue to support creatives, support business owners, support others all over the world with the work we do through exceptional service. We're genuine. We need to be innovative. That's pretty obvious. And involved. We're really involved in our community, and we encourage others. We encourage employees to be involved. And so there's an Adobe Foundation. We We encourage employees to do pro bono work, get time off to do community service and things like that. So.
Community involvement's a hallmark of Brendan Dunnigan's program at HKS, isn't it? Can you tell us a bit more about how Brendan and the management team is reinforcing Aaron and team in their expression of core values? What are you folks doing?
Thanks. Yeah, we've kind of adopted a larger platform within our office firm-wide too, not just locally in San Francisco. And it's probably similar to what some larger tech companies are doing too. But in terms of inspiring individuals, every individual in the company to take, we have this month of service, we call it, and we will basically back every hour that they do up to 8 hours in terms of volunteering community service. And and the other thing that we do during that month is we encourage people to literally to donate additional time and money. And we have funds that we have every year for projects that we'll do, nonprofit pro bono projects. We did a birthing center, again, over in Africa, in a very poor nation, and we just took this, looked at this community and basically built this very simple, humble facility, but it was so much better than anything they had. And it's really making a difference over there, and that just opened up this fall. So I we have sort of the global perspective, we have the local perspective. Our office basically set up a little pop-up to fund a local nonprofit that basically sources hygiene goods for homeless people and people in need. And we set that up during this week of service that coincided with what the AIA was doing for community service at the time. And we set it up right outside Whole Foods, and we're able to basically source a truckload of supplies for homeless people. So I think, and I'll also add, the idea of doing pro bono work too is I think really an excellent way for all of us. I mean, if you're in this room, you're ambitious and you're talented, you're successful, and so to be able to align whatever it is that you're doing with a community organization that doesn't necessarily have the abilities to go out and bring people like us together and help them on their projects. That's another fantastic way to do that. HKS has done that for the Redevelopment Authority when it existed back in San Francisco, in terms of getting some sort of real estate initiatives moving, some properties kind of moving in mid-market. And in my former kind of role with another large international firm in San Francisco, we would actually take on a chunk of professional services as pro bono work for leading nonprofits locally. And it was just a great way to have engage the community, the leadership of the nonprofit, and take their mission and their organization to a level that frankly they could not do if they were to go out and hire just any firm. So I think that's a huge way to impact the larger community, just to take on that kind of work.
So here's a tougher question for somebody like Scott. Are you willing to pay more for the privilege of being associated with somebody like XL Construction or HKS that is willing to align with your philosophical and cultural objectives? It's not free, right? We all know that. Any of us business operators that are willing to truly back what we're talking about here, it becomes exceedingly difficult to do it for free. So a portion of that undoubtedly makes it into my operating overhead. I can't avoid it. And if I'm not able to ever recover it, and there comes a point where I'm no longer able to stand on the stage and talk about what our company does. So I'm kind of begging for the clients out there that actually value these things. And my question is, how do you guys balance that with being responsible to the shareholders and getting a good price?
Right. Yeah, I think it's a great question. It's a challenge. Fortunately, at Adobe, a lot of this runs through a procurement organization, as most large, publicly traded companies would have a procurement group. We don't have a procurement team that says, we're going to take the lowest bid. We're going to, grind this down. What we always lean to is what's going to provide the best value to our company. And so we do work with premier design firms, construction firms. I mean, we work with folks that will provide the best value, and that is oftentimes not the least expensive. And the decision makers, particularly on my team, would look at that and say, yeah, I think there's real value here in hiring a firm that actually cares about its employees, that actually does have a team of people that they do take care of. So yeah, we absolutely expect that may cost more, but we're getting benefit from that as well.
If I could just follow up on that question, if you're in an interview, is that an appropriate time for a company to make their culture or these attributes known to you? How do we do that gently without appearing to be, self-promotional or whatever that might be? How do we get that across to you in that elevator speech?
Right. So we actually are going through a series of interviews yesterday and today for some work that we're doing, and this actually came up yesterday with the team. That what we I guess don't want to hear, frankly, is a design firm or a project management firm come in and say, "Hey, we're great listeners. We'll do whatever you need us to do." We're at a point where we're saying, "No, we're interviewing you for you to bring, knowledge around what's going on in the industry, because we want to be out in front. We don't want you to just respond to what we ask for. We want you to challenge us and say, hey, we did this on 3 other projects. This sucked, and this really worked well. You guys really should be thinking about this." And in that same vein is this is the stuff that I think what we value as an organization. I would expect you to say, we're not going to settle for this. We want to push you in this and not just be reactive. So I guess we're looking for partners, not service providers. If you get the distinction.
I worship you.
I think we've moved beyond, the just come on in and do what we want.
We don't have a lot of.
I agree.
Help me out here. You've talked about being a differentiator, right? Trying to impress our clients or what have you. In construction, I think it's probably true of a lot of industries. We're always told, what are the 3 things that you can control? And they usually boil down to good, fast, cheap. And then you wind yourself saying, well, I can give you 2 of the 3. All 3 at the same time are kind of tough to do. But if you think about it, after 30-odd years of doing this, I find myself going, there's got to be more. So let me put that to y'all. If good, fast, cheap aren't the only 3 criterion for what makes you worthwhile or what makes your company worthwhile, could you add a 4th term, and what would it be? Can't be good, fast, cheap. Give me a 4th. Any panelist?
Well, I already said value. I mean, for me, it's maybe...
Which is the summation of good, fast, cheap.
It's optimizing those things, right?
Yeah, I mean, value is definitely one. I would say customer experience. Construction is, it's a tough business, and it's a lot of... there's a lot of things happening, and I often joke with team members and say, listen, if there wasn't problems, we wouldn't have a job. And we're here to solve problems, and we're here to guide the process and to work through it and to provide solutions, not present problems, provide solutions. So if you encapsulate it to just the overall job, and if you do enough of them, as I have, you reflect back at the end of the job, and oftentimes you just talk about the experience. And so that's a big focus of ours at Excel, and that's something that we're proud that we bring to our clients.
It's a great answer. How about you, Aaron? What would you add as a 4th term? It's not good, fast, cheap only. What else do you do?
I would say, when a project kind of looks like it was, inevitable, but that's how it came together, and everybody's invested in the project. We're all partners, with the clients and the owner and the consultants and the architects. and you've sort of crossed, all of the hurdles that you have to get to, and you're kind of finished the project, and you just look back at it and realize, that, this is really the right solution. I don't need to worry what we didn't do here, because we've achieved what we wanted to do, and this is really the vision that the project needs to be. So there's an inevitability there too.
So I'm hearing experience, I'm hearing vision. What about you, Scott? Want to throw another one at us?
Yeah, I guess mine didn't take with you. So how about because value.
Okay, I did my best. If I could just digress for a moment and just say that we agree with what you're all three saying. We don't want to talk too much about teamwork, but the word joy is something that we put in everything we talk about. Our belief is there's a difference between joyful and enjoyable. And our view is there's a lot of tasks we have to perform that are not enjoyable, but we have the choice whether or not to discharge them joyfully. Because everybody's affected by whether or not we're going to have a joyful experience. So I just wanted to wrap around what Excel was saying. I couldn't agree more. And I agree value is important.
Thank you. Yeah.
Could we take some questions from the audience, please? I understand we're starting to get low on time. So does anybody want to throw something at somebody besides Scott? Yes, sir.
I'm going to just throw this little curveball out there about workplace and the open workplace environment versus private office, etc. And we've all been in these sessions where we kind of hear the influence of open workplace, but the need for privacy. So I'm just kind of curious from the standpoint of Adobe, what you're envisioning for your.
Yeah, it's what's really fun about the campus here, we have 3 buildings, about 900,000 square feet. About half of it right now is we've renovated the whole West Tower, 350,000 square feet renovated. It's all open space. But the other buildings are predominantly the old Silicon Valley model, double-loaded corridors, private offices. You guys know, you've seen it a million times. And so we have a mix there, and what we're doing with the open environment is really pushing sort of these activity-based settings. So I have an unassigned, I'm not assigned, I don't have a seat, but I have a neighborhood where my team sits, and about half of my team is assigned to a seat. And these are 5-foot height adjustable sit-stand tables in an open environment, but surrounding us are a variety of second and third spaces, so reservable meeting spaces and individual, private offices or private phone booths, as well as a variety of different kinds of collaborative spaces. So the idea is you have a place that you plop down that you can call your own, for most, not me, but for others that are relatively at their seat a majority of the time. You've got an assigned seat. And the challenge is getting folks out of sitting in private offices into open environment, and it's a real mixed bag. I mean, there's some engineers that just say there's no way they will get out of a private office, but we just moved the Photoshop team over the summer, and these were folks that were all in private offices, and moved them into an entirely open space, other than about 6 or 7 people that retained a private office there. And it's been hugely successful. It's a really hard thing to be in a private office and then have sort of the concern about how will I work in open space. And for the majority of folks, at least in Adobe, that have moved to open space, they love it. So.
Google, Salesforce, Tower, Apple, these are all HKS projects. Are you seeing similar things to what Adobe's doing in those locations as well? What kinds of product are they looking for when it's open office, private office, et cetera?
The neighborhood setting, I think, is something we're going to see, in most open office environments these days. It's just a great model. It's a flexible model, like I was talking about before. You can easily rearrange neighborhoods and use kind of shared kind of breakout areas, informal kind of meeting areas and the meeting rooms. So yeah, I think that is something that that really helps. The other funny thing is that, to your point about shifting the culture from private office to open office, and I think that was kind of what sparked your question. It really gets to the culture shift that's happening, I think, for large companies today, or medium-sized companies, and that a few years ago, if you had asked that question, there would have been a lot more hostility, I think, in the response from a lot of people. But today, I think it's almost expected for a lot of the kind of people coming out of school and kind of entering the workplace.
Yeah.
So I think
we just have still we have 4 generations or something working at Adobe. I mean, so we still have a whole bunch of people that have been Adobe for 25, 30 years. And they've always been in a private office from the day they started. In fact, there are some people that are still in a private office they've been in for about 18 years. In the same office.
I couldn't do it.
And we haven't changed the carpet.
I couldn't.
No.
I mean,
We've changed the carpet.
I don't want to get hung up on this, but it would be interesting to know, like, the metrics, and this is very precious information, I'm sure. But in terms of productivity and looking at this shift, it would be really interesting to, just to learn more about that and take a kind of broad view look at what that means.
Yeah.
Nick, can we take more questions? Is that okay? Okay, more questions. Anyone? Yes, sir, in the back.
I just wonder if Adobe or HKS is contemplating or using the autonomous car technology and implementing that in design today, looking in the future a little bit.
I suspect that our lab guys are doing something with that on the product side, I'm sure. But from a design build standpoint, for sure, as we look to potentially build another campus downtown, we would absolutely future-proof the parking requirement. I mean, I think one thing that didn't come up here was related to the open office environment is the density number that's changed so much, right? I mean, we were, gosh, when I was at Sun, we were looking at 275, 300 square feet per seat. And now, right, our target's about 150 maybe. And so when you think about commercial office space downtown that is, 3 or 4 per thousand on parking, we're seating people at 6 per thousand. So parking is the dilemma that most organizations have right now. As we move to more density, there isn't enough parking, but that I think is going to shift. When will that happen? I don't know. 10 years, 5 years, 20 years. So when we build another building, and anyone that's doing development now on a building, you got to figure a 50-year life. You better be thinking about what parking requirements are going to be like, and probably figure out maybe it's higher floor to floor. You can do stackers so that you can convert it to office space. Whatever the solution is, be thinking about how to future-proof that.
Pre-adaptive uses was what you were talking about in the designs you're creating. You're ready for somebody to create adaptation later, and you're making it capable of being versatile. Right. I see what you're saying.
And I would just say it's interesting, too, that the larger campuses we're looking at these days are beginning to not even allow cars on campus.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing, I think, a real kind of a much more mature kind of, frankly, visionary view about wellness and health and fitness that's related to walking and biking using mass transit. And I think it kind of just feeds into this idea that really great urban cities and placemaking and the kind of decision making that goes into, hey, we're not going to allow people to drive on our campus.
Yeah.
That's pretty profound. And to your point about the cars, yeah, I think certainly most developers, they wish that we would just all switch to autonomous right now, because there is that unknown about how long it's going to take. But there's certainly we recognize it's an issue.
I'm sure you guys are building all kinds of environments now featuring car chargers and all sorts of Uber stations and Lyft stations and so on. Is that what you're seeing also at Excel? We are.
Yeah, no, we see that.
there's solutions to the parking in garages, whether it's existing or new. And in existing, there's stacker technologies that are out there.
City Lift, one of our Bznow sponsors, right?
And for new parking garages, kind of piling onto what you were saying is, as we look at the design of the parking garage, we're thinking 30 years down the line, in that parking garages are relics, but yet it's an asset. And so, have you built an infrastructure that it can be converted for a good economic into an office space? So, for instance, are the heights the right thing? Are there shafts in a certain way that you can modify the structure to convert it later? So those are the things that those as XL are thinking about. We're looking to be a team member through the development and construction of those structures.
Nick, how are we doing on time?
I think
We're wrapped up.
Yeah.
I want to thank the audience. Thank you so much. You guys are just awesome. Appreciate it.
Big round of applause for our first panel. And with that, I'll ask that our second group of panelists please start heading their way up to the stage.